And joining us this morning is psychologist Dr. Bethany Marshall. She's going to discuss how the increase of economic stability is linked to depression, anxiety, and stress. So good morning to you, Dr. Marshall. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
So first, just tell us how issues of loss and economy during the pandemic has directly influenced the mental health of most of us.
Well, first of all, loneliness and isolation were a national health crisis even before the pandemic, with more than 25% of people living alone, fewer people volunteering, over half of all adults being single and unmarried, and loneliness and isolation linked to problems with our immune system. It's considered more deadly than obesity, financial instability leading to mental health problems.
And you mentioned the obesity and some of the health problems that coincide with some of the stress involved during the pandemic and the isolation. What other issues are on a rise because of this?
Well, I think that your viewers need to be aware of the signs of psychological distress, which are impairment in sleep, appetite, and concentration, either wanting to sleep all the time or disruption in sleep, withdrawal from other people, eating all the time, or loss of appetite, or not being able to focus or concentrate on anything. And if you're having all three of those symptoms, it's important to seek help.
Absolutely.
And you actually have 5 tips in order to overcome some of that loneliness, mental illness, and anxiety. So I want to go ahead and start with them. We're going to put those on the screen. Tip 1 is to shore up your relationships. What do you mean by this?
Yeah. Okay, so this is not the time to make new friends. This is the time to shore up your relationships with people you already know and love. Use technology in appropriate and socially healthy ways. If you wouldn't like text at the dinner table with a friend, then don't scroll through your Instagram instead of picking up the phone and talking to people you love. Join an online community. This could be your church that may live stream a service. This could be your neighborhood group, or it could be a Facebook group that shares a common interest with you.
All right, so the second one, Dr. Marshall, very interesting, because obviously during this time it's easy to want to have that urge to grab a blanket, curl up on the couch, feel sorry for yourself in this situation, but you're saying actually resist that temptation to withdraw. What does that look like?
Well, this is a very important point, because this pandemic is tapping into traumas for almost all of us. And one of the primary signs of trauma is social isolation and withdrawal. So instead of withdrawing from the people around you, it's important to interact, stay connected, and to not avoid.
And tip number 3, you say to learn something new. What are some examples of that?
Okay, so intellectual stimulation can override depression. This is a very important point. So read a book, take a class, learn a new language, and not only that, but then whatever you learn, share it with somebody else. Post it on your Instagram. Call a niece or nephew or grandchild and say, hey, this is what I read today. Post a passage somewhere. So learn something new and then pass that learning on to the people around you.
Good advice. And another tip, we've seen a lot of examples of this on social media where people can still be of service virtually. So why is this important?
So there is a lot of research in the area of happiness, and happiness is if we engage in acts of service, if we have gratitude, if we live in the moment, if we count our blessings, if we live this month as if it's our last, and if we affirm our most important values, all of these factors are linked to happiness. There's very robust research in this area, but the primary factor is being of service to others. So if you have an elderly neighbor, take groceries to them. If you have a friend that is vulnerable to depression, call them up. If you have a family member that's suffering financially, don't ask them when they're going to get their stimulus check. Write a check out to them. Acts of service, not only do they override all kinds of mental issues, but they actually increase our happiness.
I love that. That was a good one. And the last tip that you have here is to get moving and to exercise. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, so let's talk about depression and anxiety. When we're depressed or anxious, again, like you talked about earlier, we want to go inside, we want to crawl under the covers, but exercise is linked to increased mental health. It boosts our endorphins, and plus, hopefully when you exercise, you go outdoors, and when you go outdoors, you get vitamin D, you're in the sun. I know it's sort of hard to go outside when we're trying to social distance, but getting in the sun really helps decrease depression. So I would say, take this time to get in shape. A lot of people are upset because they can't go to the gym. Hey, go onto YouTube and get an exercise video. Grab your wife or husband's hand, go on a walk, but get in the sun, get moving, exercise.
All very important advice, things to keep in mind as we're going through this pandemic, because we can see the light on the other side. Thank you so much, Dr. Marshall. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.